That's actually not quite true. I've got to go back there for a couple of days for some very big product launches that you will hear about as soon as they happen. But mainly I'm here away from the studio, enjoying the sea and the sunshine in my holiday home. So hence the surroundings. So do forgive me that. But it's great to be here, and I wouldn't miss this for the world, especially because today we're talking about a subject which lots of you have been asking about, and so I'm really glad to be bringing it to you, which is when it comes to having a DJ controller for playing out on, for playing gigs on, what kind of controller should you be going for? What features should you be looking for? Is the little one that you bought to get going with okay? Can you get away with it? So we're going to be talking about DJ controllers for playing out in venues on today and the features you should be looking for. Got 10 features to talk to you about, so we're going to get stuck into it very, very soon. First, though, if you're new to this, please do hit subscribe, because that means that you'll get to watch these when they actually happen. If you're watching it live now and you're new, you're lucky, because you're probably watching it on the replay because you didn't get the notification because you're not subscribed. So subscribe to the channel, click like if you're on Facebook, and then make sure you see our posts first so that you can watch these things live. If you enjoy this, please hit the share button. Why not do it now? To share it with your friends. It really helps us to do this stuff. So if you don't know who the hell we are, I'm Phil. I'm from Digital DJ Tips, the world's biggest online DJ school. This is the book we wrote, the Amazon bestseller on how to DJ. We also have DJ courses. We also work with some of the biggest names in DJing, like Layback Luke, for instance. I'll be telling you about the course that we've made with Layback Luke at the end of today's live transmission. But basically, our job is to help you become better DJs and better DJ producers. So that's what today is all about. Just another part of how we do that. We'll be here for about half an hour. If you're watching this on the replay, on YouTube especially, this is not a 5-minute quick tips video. This is a recording of a show. Most of our videos are a lot shorter, but you are missing the fun by watching the replay. Come and subscribe and watch us live. And luckily, usually one of the awesome people watching this or one of my team will put a index link on YouTube showing you where these 10 tips happen so you can jump around. Actually, we're probably going to turn this into a nice big article for the website as well, because it's a topic a lot of you have been asking about. But today it's all about you feeding back to me about these 10 things, sharing yours and so on, and we'll get this done. Right. That's the preamble over. 10 things about DJ controllers for playing out on. 10 features you must have. And just before we get started, a few very, very early hellos, because my social media box there is filling up with people who I don't want to ignore. Hi to Avinav, Michael, Kratik, Shaul, Vincent and Dominique and Alyssa and Wilfredo, all on Facebook. Hi to Arno and to DJ Mark 1. Always good to have you here, Mark. Word up to you too. To Wyone, to Chris, to Burka, at DJ Barfree, to David and to P Nice, to Alex, all over on YouTube. Really, really busy today. So welcome everyone. If you're watching on the Global DJ Network, our DJ networking group, you're the special ones. Good to have you here. But also hello to everyone else. Right, let's get going. 10 things that you ought to be looking for in a DJ controller for playing out on, as opposed to just any old DJ controller. Before we get going though, you ought to understand that you can play out on pretty much any DJ controller. Most of them will do the job. It's just that when you're looking to buy either an upgrade or get one especially for doing this, you might as well get one that's got as many of these features as possible. Second thing, I guess, is not all of them have all these features. Very few have all of these features. So you might want to check off the ones that you think are most important to you. Okay, so feature number 1 in DJ controllers for playing out on. You have to have an auxiliary input. That means you have to be able to plug in something that is not your laptop's music source. So on the cheap controllers, you plug it into your laptop and all the music comes from your laptop. If you want to plug in, say, your phone or say a CD player or any other outside source, you can't. Now, you might think, why do I need to do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, it's just useful. But 2, what if the laptop crashes? If you've got an auxiliary input on your controller and you're DJing out, you can have a lead going to your phone and you can immediately hit play on a track or a mix that you've got on your phone and you're covered while you reboot the laptop. Of course, if you want to plug CDJs and record decks and stuff in, then you're going to want even more than that. You're going to want proper mixer capability built into your controller. But as a bare minimum, you need an auxiliary input. So some controllers, even some quite good ones, don't have that. The Reloop Touch, which is quite a nice controller with a built-in screen for Virtual DJ, for instance, doesn't have that. It's a real omission. And of course, the very small controllers, the DDJ 400 and the SB, the SB, is it up to the SB2 now? I think it is, from Pioneer. You know, they're very little controllers. They don't have an auxiliary input. So while they're not necessarily going to stop you DJing out on them, because there are ways around that. Really, it's a good thing to have. So if you're buying a controller knowing you're going to be DJing out, at least one input which allows you to plug in something else, an extra music source, is a good thing to have. So the second of our 10 things that you want to be looking for on a controller to play out on, rather than just a general controller for practice or backup or whatever, is a microphone socket. So a similar deal. A microphone socket lets you plug a mic in and speak to your crowd. Now you might think, oh, I'm the kind of DJ that doesn't talk to the crowd. I'm not some cheesy mobile DJ. By the way, nothing wrong with being a mobile DJ and talking to the crowd. But you might think that as a club DJ. But you're wrong. You are going to need to use your microphone when you DJ out. It is part of DJing out. No, you might not be talking between every record, but there will come a time when someone says you need to talk on the microphone. There could be someone's car parked across the entrance of the club, and you need to say, whoever's car that is, go and move it. Just to give you one example. You can even get around not owning a microphone by plugging your headphones into the microphone socket, and then I think it's the left-hand ear cut will work as a microphone. Trust me, it works. Try it. But you need a microphone socket. If you don't have a microphone socket, you are going to regret not having one. So if you are buying a DJ controller in order to play out on, have a microphone socket as part of that controller, as well as an auxiliary input. So that's numbers 1 and numbers 2 of our must-haves for a DJ controller to play out on. So a few of your comments before we go any further. Most mic inputs aren't very good on controllers, says Treo. No, they might not be, although some are better than others. But, you know, having one is a lot better than not having one, Treo. I've got a Newmark NS7 III, says Mina. And I got the Hercules Jog Vision as a backup just for the auxiliary and the booth output. So there you go. Alyssa says with the right adapter, you can use the microphone input as a line input. I think you mean as an input for, well, I know what you mean. You mean as an input for using other stuff that isn't a microphone. So I've just thought of another one that we didn't include. So this is going to be 11 now. Great advice, says Rodney. Good point there, says Don. All right then, just scanning along here. Eugene says, I've got the Tractor Control S4 Mark III and I love it, so that's cool. I've got the Tony and Pacemaker, says the DJ stuff on YouTube. Does that count? That was a great little controller, ahead of its time if you ask me. All right then, so let's move on. So we've already covered you need an auxiliary input and a microphone input if you want a controller specifically for playing out on. This is now 11 things that you need, because someone suggested a blindingly obvious one that I didn't include in the original list. So number 3, 2 USB sockets on the back. Well, anywhere. 2 USB sockets. In other words, the ability to plug 2 laptops in. This can be really, really useful if you've got a friend you want to DJ with, because it means that your friend who uses the same software as you, and you need to generally both be using the same software, like both be Serato users or both be Rekordbox users, can both DJ on the same unit at the same time without a gap, which is pretty awesome, because what your friend does is plug in to the same controller, and then the channels have got switches on the top that says laptop 1, laptop 2. You can even play back to back. It's an awesome feature. It's really flexible. It adds an awful lot. Now, this isn't something that you necessarily need if you know you're never going to want to play with anyone else, or you're happy to work around it by playing a track in the auxiliary input on your phone. See, that auxiliary input again, or some other way while you switch laptops. But, you know, it's just a nice thing to have, and it's getting more and more common nowadays as well. It used to be just on the most high-end controllers, but it's trickling down now, and you see it on more and more mid-range controllers as well as the high-end controllers. So 2 USB sockets, so you can plug 2 USB leads in and have 2 laptops plugged in, makes it a lot more fun and a lot more useful for DJing out. So we're going to move on to number 4 now, and number 4 is actually one that some people don't think of, but they are glad when they realize it, especially if you haven't bought a controller yet and you're thinking about a controller that doesn't do this. So number 4 is something that's not too big. Because guess what? A big controller is a pain in the arse to get into a DJ booth. You go into most DJ booths in clubs that aren't huge, normal clubs, normal bars and venues and lounges and stuff like that. They're not very big. They've got their own gear there as well. And guess what? It's when you turn up with like a truckload of gear and try and plonk it into a DJ booth like that they start to get a bit pissed off with you, because you don't need all that space if you've got a smaller controller. A smaller controller means it's easier to just move the gear to one side a bit, or set it up on a smaller shelf, or set it up to one side. Having a controller which is not massive can be a real bonus. Now, as with all of these tips, it's not essential. You might only play in a venue that's got lots of room. You might be prepared to always talk to venues and say, look, I'm going to need this amount of room. You're going to have to sort that out. But generally, the smaller, the better. I remember playing on the Denon DJ MCX 8000 at a gig a couple of years ago now. It was the first time it was when it had just come out and I wanted to test it. So I just took it along and I should know better. I wasn't thinking. I got to the DJ booth and I was like, oh God, why didn't you think this one through, Phil? It literally wouldn't fit in. I mean, it literally would not fit in. The DJ booth was 3-sided and it was wider than the two sides. I had to stack up phone books and it was ridiculous. Having a DJ controller that is not too big does not make you look amateur. It does not make you look silly like you're playing with a toy. It does mean that it's practical for you to fit into smaller DJ booths. Think that one through carefully. Big enough, but not too big is worth thinking about. And we'll move on to number 5 before going back to your comments. Replaceable crossfader as a minimum, and preferably other faders replaceable as well. At the very least, a decent service agreement so that if it does break, you can get stuff mended quickly on it. One of the big differences between pro DJ equipment in pro DJ booths and you with your DJ controller is that pro DJ gear is by its nature modular. That means it's in parts. There's one CDJ, there's another CDJ, there's a mixer in the middle. If any of them break, you take the unit that's broken out, you put your spare in, you send the one that's broken off to be mended, that's it, job done. A DJ controller is an all-in-one unit, and that means if it breaks, you're buggered. So having an easy way of changing the stuff that's most likely to break, and the crossfader is the shoe-in for the thing that's most likely to break, is very clever. And as I say, there are some DJ controllers where it's reasonably easy to replace other parts as well. So there's another one of these tips that feeds into this that I'll talk about a bit later. But so you can tell a replaceable crossfader, it's got 2 screws and you can pull the thing out, is a very good idea. And as I say, I'm going to move on to something else that's related to this a little bit later on. So we've done the first 5, have an auxiliary in, have a microphone in, have twin USBs, have a controller that's not too big, and have at least a replaceable crossfader, if not other things as well. Before we move on to the next 5 plus that extra one, let's go to your comments. Damn, I still use Technics 1210s and a Pioneer DJ M800, says rare old school breakbeat hardcore jungle drum and bass mixtapes. That's not your real name, is it? Good on you. That stuff lasts the test of time. So Alyssa says, if the previous DJ has a CDJ set up, then I just put the lids over the media players and set the controller across the top of it. Yeah, that can work well as well. The faders and the power cord should have backups as well. You know, we're not talking about backups here, but certainly taking backup equipment is a great idea. That's from Ali. Always good to have your input, Ali. Avinab says the jog wheels should be big enough. Nah, jog wheels are your choice. Small jog wheels don't stop you playing out in a venue any more than they stop you playing at home. Jog wheels are, I'd say this, it's worth thinking about how big you want your jog wheels to be, but I think it is really important necessarily for playing out. All right then. So glad to see you back to your animated self, Phil, says Mark. You were recovering from a crazy travel day last week. I'd slept for 20 minutes last week when I was doing the live, and I got to be honest, I felt it. When you're my age, it's not the same as when you're 21, getting through that stuff. All right then. I love the fact I've got 2 USB inputs on my Denon MC7000, says Clarification on YouTube. I do a lot of mobile gigs. I play by myself, but I use one laptop for Serato and the other for DJ Pro 2 for requests from Spotify. Wow, never thought of that. Great thinking. Thank you for that clarification. All right then. I've now got number 12. This is great. Thank you for that one, Don. So I'm going to take the glory for that, although Don, it was yours. So that's a great one to add. Thank you. So this is awesome. See, this is making the article we're going to write even better. And it's all thanks to you, awesome community. You're the best. We love you. All right then. More live comments. I'm just scrolling to see if there's stuff which is relevant, really relevant. Data Transmission said, we DJ'd at Space in Ibiza on the Pacemaker. For all those of you who don't remember, Pacemaker was a little DJ controller. I think it was all about streaming, wasn't it? It was like a little handheld portable thing. They're still going. I'm actually interviewing the guy who started that company on my podcast in a week or two, so watch out for that. But thanks for all the comments. Colm says, Pacemaker, that's a blast from the past. All right then. Let's just check if there's anything else that I can pull in here. Etienne says, if I only have a DDJ 400 small Pioneer controller, could I buy a separate mixer for auxiliary and mic inputs instead of upgrading my controller? Yes, you certainly could. Yamaha make tiny little live mixers for about $80. Find them on Thomann or on Guitar Center or whatever. And you can plug your DJ controller into that along with your microphone and auxiliary input, and then you can plug from that on to the PA system or whatever. So yes, you certainly can. No, none of these things are deal breakers. You can get around all of these things, but these are the ideals. These are the things you should consider if you're getting a controller specifically for playing out on. All right then. So let's move on. So we're going to move on to number 6 of 12 now. Thank you for everyone who suggested things I didn't include in this list. So number 6 is you need good metering. In other words, good VU meters, good LED meters showing you the levels. I would say you want meters on each of the individual channels and on the output, on the master output. Why? Because it's always good to have metering anyway, but you can sometimes get away with it at home. You know, smaller controllers often don't have any, or they just have a master output meter or something. If you're playing through a really big PA system and you're trying to play professionally, it's very, very good to set your levels properly all the way at the beginning and all the way through your DJ set. The master volume output on your DJ controller might be the final volume output before the PA system. So it's up to you to make sure you're not pushing it too hard, because that could do two things. It could mean that the limiter in the club kicks in. The limiter is a thing that turns the volume down when you're playing too loud, and it makes you sound crap. But the second thing that could happen, especially if it's your PA system or it's a small venue and they haven't set it up properly, is you could actually damage something. So, you know, making sure your levels are as loud as you want them, but no louder than is correct. In other words, you're not pushing it too far into the red is very, very important, and you can't do that without good meters. With good metering on the individual channels, you can make sure they're not into the red, and you can also make sure your master output is not into the red as well. So having good metering it becomes far more important when you're playing out. Sometimes it's other people's equipment and ears that you are responsible for, not just a practice session at home. And let's be honest, at home you can never turn it up full anyway, right? So good metering is number 6. Number 7 is external power. So a lot of DJ controllers work with USB straight from your computer, and that's great if you're DJing at home. There's a couple of reasons why that is possibly not quite such a good idea if you're DJing out. Number one is there is not as much power going into the unit as if you have an external power supply going into the unit. And that means that you're not getting as much, a couple of things, as much brightness on the lights. So in the dark, your controller is not lit as well, but also as much volume on the output. And the volume on the output can be important in club situations. You want a nice, loud output so that it's driving everything properly through the system from there on in. If your output is too quiet, it's not always a deal breaker, because, for instance, if you're plugged into the nightclub's mixer, you can use their gain control to compensate for your quiet DJ controller, but it's not ideal. So having that power backup. Oh, and a third thing, I guess, is it's taking less power from your computer, so your computer's less likely to throw a wobbly. If it throws a wobbly at home, who cares? But if it happens in public in front of 100 people, 1,000 people, a little bit more important. So having external power is a great thing. One thing that very few DJ controllers do that I love is having the transformer built into the DJ controller. In other words, your power supply is one of those big thick cables like you get on a kettle at home. You plug that in, you plug the other end into the wall. There's no external box. There's no fiddly little 9-volt lead to plug into your controller. Most controllers don't give you that. Most controllers are what I just described, a fiddly little lead to plug in. That's all right, you know, it's just how it is. But I've always thought I prefer the nice big kettle lead, if you like, that things like the XDJ RX2 and the Prime 4 and all those kind of bigger devices have. But anyway, having external power is the big one here. So before going any further, back to your comments. I really love to see what you think. Maybe you're going to be suggesting even more that I haven't done. We're already up to 12. It sounds like the Pioneer DDJ SR2 or DDJ RR tick most of the boxes, says Michael. Yeah, a lot of mid-range controllers tick most of the boxes. It's true. Don says a good practice is also batch processing the levels of the tracks to have the same peak, so you don't have different level masters, which is common due to different mastering engineers. Yeah, I mean, that's what the gain control is for at the top of each channel, right? In the old days of vinyl, we used to play really badly pressed, 5 tracks on one side of a record on one deck, and on the other deck a really nice 12-inch that had been pressed loud, and the gain controls would be totally different because one was really quiet and one was really loud. So that's what that control is for, so you can get around that. But for lots of reasons, having nice loud MP3s or WAV files in the first place is a good idea. I agree with you totally there, and not least because the waveforms all look nice and fat on your screen. But yeah, thank you for that, Don. More comments live. DJ Wolf is moaning about having to play quietly at home, who says, tell me about it. My parents complain if I make the slightest noise with my controller. Well, actually, there's another tip coming up which could save you in that situation. So, all right then. This one is actually about something I'm going to tell you about at the end, which is our new course with Laid Back Luke. But seeing you've asked it now, I'll forget otherwise. I will throw it on the screen and we'll answer it. Anchor says, let's say someone subscribes to Laid Back Luke's course. Again, I'll tell you about this at the end, people. What gear should they go with if they want to learn and practice at home for 6 months or so before even attempting a gig? Whatever gear you've got, the course works with all gear, so don't worry about that. All right then. My piddly cable got pulled out by an energetic curtain swish at the weekend. A curtain swish! One of these! Wrecking your DJ gig. Disgusting, says Dan. So there you go. That's another reason having those big cables that plug in. There's also often a little hook that you can hook your cable around before plugging it in, which could have saved you there, Dan. Michael has suggested one that we've already got in the list, Michael, but thank you for that. All right then. So I'm going to probably move on now, although there's so many good comments coming in. We will get to you if you're commenting and we haven't read you out or you've said something useful. But thank you very much, everyone who's commenting. It's very, very busy today. I will just pull this one in, which is from Andrew, who says, I also have a second laptop for backup and requests that remains online. You never know when you need it. And then I can use a hotspot to network them together to transfer the files so the DJ laptop just DJs and doesn't surf online. It sounds like you're very organised, Andrew. I'm impressed by that kind of thing. All right then, let's move on. So number 7, no, we've done number 7, that was external power. Number 8 is split Q. So the person who just suggested that now, thank you very much for that. Now split Q is something you might not have heard of because it's not very common on DJ controllers, but let me explain to you what split Q is. So you imagine your headphones. Normally when you're DJing, you have a speaker nearby, right? And you have one headphone on and one off, and you're listening to that speaker with one ear, and in the other ear you're listening to what you're getting ready to play. And when you're beat mixing, you are matching them up. In the middle of your head you've got that speaker there, you close your eyes a bit, that's that headphone there, and you're matching them up and you're checking they're in beat, and when they sound great you mix the fader across. If you're DJing in public and there's no speaker near you, or the speaker near you is broken, or you're not used to it, you don't like the sound of it, having something called split Q can save you. Split Q puts what the audience is hearing through that one in your headphones, and that one remains what you're playing to yourself to get ready to play next. In other words, it's splitting the master and the Q, one for each ear. It used to be on all DJ mixes. It still is on most DJ mixes, but it's not on most controllers. They're starting to get it again now. It seems to be swinging back into fashion. But split Q is something that DJs who are used to it will not entertain the idea of using a controller without it. It can get you around what a couple of you were saying about not being able to DJ in your bedroom because you can DJ fully in your headphones that way. And also it's very, very useful for playing out, which is what we're talking about here, because you can never be sure that the monitor speaker near you is going to be good enough or even there. And the thing with playing out is that the speakers on the dance floor can be quite a long way away, and that can give not only bad audio quality for you, but a delay between what comes out of those speakers reaching your ears and what you're hearing in your headphones. And the delay between those two things means your beat mixing is going to sound dodgy unless you compensate for it, which takes a lot of practice. Much better to have split Q just in case. So having a split Q on the headphones is a great one to have. Let's move on to another one, which is backlit controls. If you've got a DJ controller where when you make everything dark, you can see all the lights because they're lit from underneath, that is good. Or to flip it around, if you don't, it can be very hard. Some DJs take a little torch. Some DJs have their phone ready so they can shine on what's going on. But look, just having backlit buttons is far better. Then you can see everything. It's all good. You can even get little torches that plug into your laptop, like USB bendy torches. But hey, if your controller's got that built in, you don't need it. So having a controller with backlighting is a useful thing as well. So before I move on to numbers 10, which is the last one I prepared, but also 11 and 12, which are two that you guys and girls have suggested. You're the best. I want to just go back to the comments coming in live. If you have just joined us, by the way, we are talking about 12 things that you should be looking for in a DJ controller to play out on. And if you've been here since the beginning and you're loving this, please hit that share button. That's all I want you to do. It will really help us to get this far and wide and to keep doing these things for you. Right. Okay, let's move on. So lots and lots of comments. Backlit buttons make a world of difference in a live dark setting, says Ali. The extremely cheap DDJ 400 has split Q, although it's not right and left, but one on top of the other. Right, there's a difference here. Most DJ controllers have a knob which goes master to Q, which blends the two together in your headphones, which is another way of doing it, but it's not the same thing. So yeah, you're right. There is kind of a way around it, but it's not the same thing, Marius. But thank you for that. All right. So more live stuff coming in. This one is from a few of you talking about the power cord stuff, actually. Yeah, so here's an interesting thing. Let's talk a little bit more about power cords. Kelvin says people on stage will ruin your gig, like hitting your power cord. Here's the thing. Some controllers don't have the option to add a power cord at all. So you have to use USB power. So in other words, if that gets pulled out, you could be in trouble. Other controllers will only work on power. So if the actual power in the wall gets pulled out, it doesn't matter if the USB is still plugged in, you're in trouble. Some controllers work on both. And actually that can be an advantage because if the power cord does get pulled out by mistake, the lights might dim, the volume might drop a bit, but it might carry on playing. So actually some of you guys with cheaper controllers that do have a power socket are probably slightly better off than people who have only a power socket and it won't work without the power in, or only USB and it doesn't even have an external power socket. You know, it only works on USB, because in both those cases, pulling the only lead out that's providing the power will stop the music. So anyway, yeah, a little nuance there. All right then, so more live stuff. So many great questions coming in, but a lot of them aren't, directly related to this. So we will get around to answering you. My team and I will get around to answering you in the comments for those things. All right, next one then. So we're now on to numbers 11 and 12, which is what you guys and girls, 10, 11 and 12. So number 10 is something that people sometimes overlook, which is good build quality. It's one of the things that separates cheap controllers from slightly more expensive ones. Just like your laptop, if you're going to take it into the DJ booth, you really want something that's reasonably well made, because you're not using it in an office. You're not using it in a controlled environment with air conditioning and no one moving around. You're using it in a sweaty DJ booth with drinks and people you don't know bustling in and out, and you're taking it places and it might get dropped in a bag and stuff piled on top of it. Having a laptop that can stand that stuff is important. In the same vein, having a DJ controller that's reasonably well built is important. I said this tied into one earlier, which was the crossfader one. But you can, the more you pay, the better the build quality generally. But if you take the knob off any of the controls on a DJ controller and look underneath, the good ones, they've got a nut on either side and they're bolted onto a metal plate, so they're far less likely to break when they get a knock or whatever. And on top of good build quality, buying a decent bag or case for it is a must when you're going to be playing out, like the Deck Saver acrylic covers, and at least a proper case. And at the very least, carry it around in the box that you bought it in. It's a lot better than nothing. But having something that's reasonably well built, it's okay playing a gig or two on something small and plastic and built to a budget, but it's not okay playing night after night, because it'll break. It will break, and that's just part of life. So buying something that's well built was my 10th point on all of this stuff. I'm going to move on in a second to the final two I've got. I'm just keeping an eye on the comments coming in. There's some great ones, but as I say, we're going to try and keep on target here to get this finished in reasonable time. I will put this one on though, because we mentioned this earlier. This is from Wojtek, I'm sure your name isn't pronounced like that, but my best attempt. What I really appreciate is also for the mixer to be independent from the controller software. So if the laptop dies, you can still use your controller's mixer with external players or even a phone. So yeah, this kind of like plays on the point I was saying earlier that an auxiliary input is very important. But if it's got external mixer capabilities, then that's doubly good. So all right then, let's move on to the two bonus ones. Thanks to you guys and girls, and these are two that I ought to have come up with, and I didn't. And they're both to do with the outputs from your controller. So number 11 is a booth output. So a booth output is a separate output with a separate volume control as well as the master output. The master output will plug into the main PA or to the mixer or whatever. But the booth output gives you a separate output, and this means that if you're setting up on your own, just in a like a venue that hasn't got any equipment, you've got the PA system, you've got everything, you can have a speaker near you with its own volume control. Really, really useful for all the reasons we were talking about with split queue and all that kind of thing. And it means that you can have that volume turned down when you don't need it and turn up when you do. So having two outputs can be a really good thing. Not always necessary if you're always playing in a club, always plugging into their mixer, always got their booth output there, then hey, it doesn't matter because you can use their control for the monitor speaker. But it's a good thing to have, especially for mobile DJs, people hiring PA systems to play parties and so on. So thank you for that one. I forget who suggested that, but great suggestion. And this next one, I've already given you a name check for this. Having a balanced output. So the outputs on the back of your controller, on a cheap controller, they tend to be RCA. RCA is the little red and the little white one, right? Now that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that for DJing at home. Nothing wrong with that if you're plugging straight into a mixer, because those are great for short leads. Short cables that can just make it a short hop from you to anything within arm's reach, really. But if you're running a cable from a DJ controller to a PA system, which could be like 15 meters away or something, then unless you've got what's called a balanced output, you might get interference arriving along the way. And this is because cables that are what's called unbalanced, those little RCAs with the green, with the red and the white, don't carry the signal so efficiently and are more open to outside interference. Whereas a balanced cable it's the equivalent almost of it being earthed or shielded. The audio is cosseted all the way from your controller to where it's going. They basically work better. So if you're going to be plugging directly into a PA system that's not right near where you are, having what's called a balanced output is great. You can tell if you've got one, by the way, because they're the big wide control, the big wide sockets that will always be next to the little red and white ones. Or they could look like two headphone sockets next to each other. They'll be the balanced outputs. And again, controllers past the basic tend to have these, but definitely worth looking out for. So that was number 12, and that was suggested by you. So well done for that. Thank you very much. So okay, we've done it. We've covered all 12. I'll run over them very quickly, and then I will tell you about the Laid Back Luke course that a few of you are asking about. So the 12 things for playing out are an auxiliary input, at least, so you can plug in an extra input in case your laptop goes down. A microphone socket. You are going to need the microphone. Trust me, you are. Twin USB sockets, so you can plug two laptops in for easy DJ switchovers or a backup laptop. Something that's not too big, because sometimes there's very little room for you to plug in DJ booth, so big is not always best. A replaceable crossfader, and preferably other replaceable faders and stuff in case you need to do that in a hurry. Good metering, so that you can get your levels nice and loud but not too loud. External power, more reliable, brighter lights, higher volume output. Split headphones output, great if the monitor speaker fails. Backlit controls, great in dark DJ booths. Good build quality, because it's going to take a battering. And then the two bonus ones, booth output and balanced output, which just gives you more options in the DJ booth when you're playing out as opposed to your bedroom. We're done here, folks. Thank you very much, everyone, for getting involved, and thank you also for helping each other down in the comments. I'm watching you now, and it's really, really nice to see you answering each other's questions and kind of building on what I'm talking about. I love it. You are a great community. I'm really proud to see the people on the Global DJ Network on Facebook and YouTube who attend these things. It's good to have you here. Thank you very much. Now, I wanted to tell you about the Laid Back Luke course. So this is the Laid Back Luke course. It's called Laid Back Luke's Creative DJing course. We've made it with Luke. It is a mixing course. It teaches you to do transitions and mixes and live remixes, just how Luke does them. It's all of his secrets ploughed into one online course. It's got comments, it's got slow motion demos, it's got annotations, you can ask questions. It is awesome. It's doing really well. We launched it last Thursday, and we have got an amazing number of people loving it already. We're really pleased with how it's gone. Luke's really pleased with how it's gone. He's excited to be getting stuck in there and helping people out. We're very, very proud of it. So if you're interested in learning how Laid Back Luke does his thing, this course is available right now, and it's available here. djtips.co/Luke. So you can go there, find out more about it. There's a video Luke's made telling you all about his course there. Find out what it's all about, and if you're interested, jump on board. If you do want to jump on board, do it now, because it's $100 off for this week only, not even for the rest of the week. I think it's just a couple more days. So the Laid Back Luke Creative DJing course, it works with all DJ controllers. It doesn't work with all the stuff we've been talking about necessarily today. You don't need any of that stuff. You just need the basics, and you can learn how Luke DJs. We show you how to do it on all kinds of gear. So that's Laid Back Luke's course. It's the latest one from us. As I say, we're very proud of that. Taken a lot of work to get that one out there. I love watching Luke's YouTube videos, says John. Yeah, he's very generous, isn't he, with the way he shares it. Trust me, it builds on that massively. It really does. Luke was like, I didn't think that was possible when we started filming that, guys. It's amazing. All right then. That, I think we're done. We're going to leave it here, guys and girls. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today. It's been quite a long one in the end, hasn't it? It's been good to be back on full speed after being unslept and unshaven last week. I'm just unshaven this week. Listen, everyone, get good, get out there, make the moments, keep commenting, even if you're watching on the replay, because we will continue to answer your comments about this. Any questions underneath, and wherever you're watching, Global DJ Network, YouTube or Facebook, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you for Tuesday Tips Live here on Digital DJ Tips again next week. Like, follow, share, please, please, please. Helps us to do more of these things. I'll see you then. Bye.